Hi scholars, it's Miss Dunn. Today we're going to be reading together, and the book that we're going to read is Evonne Goolagong. And before we look at the front cover of this book, we're going to do three things together. I'm going to share with you a career question, the genre of this book, and an important word. So your career question, to get your heart and your brain ready for this book, is what do you dream of doing when you grow up? What do you dream of doing when you grow up? And if you can, share your idea with someone sitting next to you. Great. For me, when I was your age, I actually dreamed of being a teacher. So I feel really grateful that I got to pursue my dream. And thinking about your answer to this question is going to help you connect to our main character, Evonne. And because Evonne is a real person that lives today, and how this book is written about her and her story, this book is a nonfiction biography. Well, we're going to learn more new and true facts about Evonne Goolagong. And the last thing we're going to do together is share an important word. So that word is indigenous. Say it with me, indigenous. Indigenous means native or first in its place. So if you're talking about an indigenous plant, that's a plant that was first in that place. Or if you're talking about an indigenous person, it's a person that was there in that place first. So for example, what I know to be true about Evonne is that she identifies as indigenous, and she is indigenous to Australia, the country of Australia. So now let's take a look at the front cover about any noticings or wonderings that you're having. Great. So I noticed that Evonne has a tennis ball and a tennis racket, which is making me wonder if tennis is important to her, an important interest that she has. Another fact that I know about Evonne is that her gender identity is a woman. Her age identity in this book starts off as a child, and then she grows up to become an adult. And her ancestors are the Wurundjeri people. So now let's get started. So scholars, the group reader skill that we're going to practice today is comparing and contrasting text or books, where as I read this book to you, I want you to be thinking about another book that it reminds you of. And when we're done reading this book together, we're going to be finding out ways about how these books are the same and then how they're different. Evonne Goolagong. This book was written by Maria Isabel Sanchez-Bagheera and illustrated by Lisa Korster. Little Evonne grew up on a hot, dusty farm in Australia. She was the third of 8 children, all of them descendants of the Wurundjeri people, who had lived on the land for more than 60,000 years. So the Wurundjeri people were the indigenous people of Australia. Evonne's family was very poor and couldn't afford to buy her many things. But one day, under the wheel of her father's car, Evonne found the most amazing treasure, an old tennis ball. So the author's telling us more about Evonne's and her family's class identity, the amount of money and experiences she has access to. She loved that tennis ball so much. Her father made her a wooden racket to hit it with. It didn't look like the real tennis racket, but she thought, I can start with anything. The author's telling us more about Evonne's character traits, like how she's optimistic and thinks positively about the experiences she's having. One evening, she discovered a story about a young female tennis player who went onto a place in England called Wimbledon and won on its magical center court. And she went to bed dreaming of that girl. Evonne dreaming of playing tennis is reminding me of another person that we read about, Wilma Rudolph, and how she was dreaming about being a professional runner and running faster than a gazelle. But taking part in a world-class tennis tournament felt like a fairy tale to a little indigenous girl. I wonder if it felt like a fairy tale to Evonne because indigenous people weren't allowed to enjoy everyday things like playing tennis because of the untrue story being told that white people are better than indigenous people. Evonne wasn't allowed to join a tennis club and had to watch games through a fence, memorizing everything the coach said. It sounds like playing tennis was really important dream for Evonne because she worked hard to be a better tennis player, even though she had less access to opportunities to learn how to be a better tennis player. Evonne went to the club day after day. Finally, the club's manager noticed her. He gave her the keys so that she could teach herself how to play tennis when all the kids were gone. And she did. So the author is telling us that the club's manager ignored that rule that Indigenous people like Evonne couldn't play tennis and couldn't play at this tennis club. He interrupted that untrue story. And I wonder if it's because he believed that Evonne having access to playing tennis was more important than following that rule. A tennis coach named Vic Edwards heard about a young girl who could play faster than any other player. He asked Evonne to move to a new place called Sydney in Australia. There, she lived with his family and trained to become a professional tennis player. Wow. And this is reminding me of Wilma Rutherford, how she had people helping her also to become a professional runner. She had her family taking care of her and giving her massages every day, and she also had a coach who also noticed her. The day she left home, her mother gave Evonne a tennis dress made out of bed sheets and some very good advice. Her mom said, "Do not worry about winning or losing. Just play your best and have a lovely time." It became Evonne's secret weapon. She didn't think of winning was everything and losing was disaster. Every time she hit the court, she enjoyed her matches and looked forward to the next point. It sounds like Evonne listened to her mother's advice and focused on playing the game that she loved instead of focusing on winning the game. Shot after shot, Evonne made it to all the major tournaments. She played in Sydney, in Paris, and in New York. And one day, she was in Wimbledon. She won the tournament and became the #1 player in the world. Wow. I remember when Evonne, in the beginning of the story we read, that she wasn't able to play tennis because of her race and because of who her ancestors are. And now, she's able to play on the place that she dreamed of. And she became the best player. She had to wait 9 years until she won Wimbledon again. And that day, there was a special guest in the stands watching her. That was her daughter, Kelly. Evonne became the first mother to win the tournament in more than 60 years. Wow. Not only was she the best player, but now she was also the first mother to win Wimbledon in 60 years. When she retired or stopped playing tennis as her job, Evonne kept inspiring the next generation of Australian tennis players, helping young Indigenous children make it to the court. Wow, sounds like just like how Evonne inspired and helped Indigenous kids play tennis, Wilma also inspired girls to run, not only boys. And this was how little Evonne became the most graceful player the world ever met, a living legend who breaks barriers every time she hits the ball. And here we have a timeline of real photographs of Evonne and more new and true facts. And actually, I just learned a new and true fact that she won 92 tournaments. The good reader question that I have for you scholars is, how do you think Evonne felt about winning the tournament in Wimbledon? And if you can, pause this video to share your idea with someone sitting next to you. Remember to use evidence to support your idea using the author's words or the illustrator's pictures. The question again is, how do you think Evonne felt about winning the tournament in Wimbledon? Great. I think she felt ecstatic. I think she has high energy and she has a pleasant feeling because her mouth is wide open, her eyebrows are raised, her arms are stretched out. And I remember the author telling us that she was dreaming about going to this tournament. And then she got there and she won. So thinking about your answer to this question is going to help you think about how she may have been feeling at this point in her life. So the good reader skill that we're going to practice today, scholars, is comparing and contrasting text. So as I was reading this book about Evonne Goolagong, I was reminded of another book that we read together called Wilma Rudolph. And I remember in this book that she was from a big family in Tennessee. When she was a child, she got an illness called polio, where the doctors told her that she would never walk again without a leg brace. And I remember that she was dreaming of running faster than a gazelle. And then her family helped her and took care of her, such as giving her nearly 4 massages a day. So then she could start running without a leg brace. She went on to become an athlete, a coach noticed her, and then she made it to the Olympics in Rome, and she became the first woman to win 3 gold medals. And this inspired girls that sprinting or running wasn't only something that boys could do. So we are going to compare and contrast these 2 books. And we're going to be using the tool, the Venn diagram, to record all of our ideas. Remember that a Venn diagram has 2 circles that represent the 2 books that you're comparing and contrasting. In this blue circle, I'm going to write all of my ideas about Evonne, and in the yellow circle, I'm writing all of my ideas about Wilma. Where the circles overlapped, where you see in green, is where we're writing about how these 2 books are the same. And in the spaces where the circles, in the individual circles, we're writing about how these 2 books are different. So, I want you to think for a second and pause this video if you can to think about how these 2 books are the same. Great. So I put down some ideas. I said that both Evonne and Wilma were famous athletes and they were the best in their sport. I remember that Wilma went to the Olympics in Rome and she won 3 gold medals. And Evonne went on to win 92 tournaments. I also wrote another idea how these 2 books were the same, or how these 2 people were similar. That they both stopped untrue stories and inspired others to dream. Because I remember that Wilma inspired girls that they could also race and sprint, not only boys. And I remember Evonne inspired Indigenous children to also play tennis. So now, scholars, we're going to be finding ways that these 2 books are different. And we're going to write our ideas in the individual circles of our Venn diagram. So there's lots of ways to think about how these 2 books are different. You can think about the main character, the people that we read about their identity, such as their race, their gender, their ancestors. You can think about their character traits, about their heart, brain, and body. You can think about their experiences, or you can think about how the problems, solutions, or settings in both of these books are different. So, when you think of how these books are different, you're going to record your ideas in the individual circles for those 2 books. And if you, as I was reading this book, you were reminded of a different book, you are more than welcome to compare and contrast those 2 books and share the reasons that you think that they're the same and that they're different. So, scholars, your teachers would love to see how you compare and contrast 2 books. If you want to take a picture or video, send to your teachers, or use the auto record button and share your ideas on Seesaw. Have a great day.